rough, and it takes all that you've got, but he's been here, just waiting for you to knock, to take his hand and plant your feet on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock. I want to live my life on the rock.
Hi, welcome to Life on the Rock, and tonight our guests are Rose Ray and Annalise Liesemeyer, and they've been on the show before a few years ago with Radiant magazine. They've come out with a new annual edition, a coffee table edition we could say, and it's a magazine for young women, and they're going to talk about the contents of it. They have a lot of great articles and fashion tips, so we're going to be educated tonight, Doug. Good to see you, Doug.
You too.
I was reading recently something the Holy Father said in one of his Wednesday audiences that struck me as so pertinent today, what we're facing in our country. You know, we're coming up on the Supreme Court Justice issuing a statement on marriage and ruling on marriage. And he said, he's been giving catechesis on marriage. He says, when a man and a woman marry in the Lord, they participate in the missionary life of the church by living not only for themselves or their own family, but for all people. Therefore, the life of the church is enriched through every marriage which shows forth this beauty, and is impoverished when marriage is disfigured. And that's certainly a challenge in our country today with the sexual revolution, with no-fault divorce, promiscuity, rampant divorce in our country. Marriage has been disfigured, and this latest attack on it is to try to redefine it. That it's not rooted in sexual complementarity of a man and woman coming together, committed to one another in fidelity, and being attached to the offspring, to the kids they have. And of course, the civil government has a role in protecting this fundamental unit of society, because that's the basis of the health of society. If you have stable families and marriages, you're going to have a healthier society, and also obviously to raise kids in a loving way that's supportive of them. And I just feel like we're in the fight of our life here, and it's deeper just than the redefinition. I mean, we kind of lost the battle in the sexual revolution. We've lost the sense of the meaning and purpose of marriage, and this is maybe a symptom, a manifestation of that. But it is a time, nonetheless, to fight, to evangelize about marriage, to reclaim it.
Yeah, and we have to take very seriously, you know, the expression, the word that he uses about disfiguring, you know, to the point where there's a certain way of thinking out there that has become very common now. And that way of thinking is that, in general, the feelings of love that one would say they have for another trump the facts or the truth or the order, the natural order of what relationships are to be. And this is a major part of this disfiguring of this battle is the terminology. So we hear words like phobia or discrimination or hate speech, and these things are being thrown about constantly in almost every venue you can have. The church is discriminating. You know, there's a homophobic sort of attitude here. It's hate speech. And as this is constantly being thrown out, these words alone can help disfigure a person's understanding of this complementary nature of man and woman and the order, the natural order. You know, a friend of mine would say sometimes, this is a hand. It makes a great hand, but it makes a lousy hammer. Right? There are certain things that God has created us on a very natural level, certain things that God has created to be used a certain way that simply makes sense. And you can see very clearly when things are taken out of the order, there's always going to be some sort of chaos or some sort of fallout. And we're seeing that when contraception was introduced into our society. And really, we're not going to be able to protect marriage as we need to and should unless we address that. That's a conversation no one even really wants to have anymore. Is contraception is still gravely immoral, regardless of what the percentages are, they say, of people who are using contraception in one way, shape, or form. It's still gravely immoral. You know, in no Christian religion on the face of the planet, and folks, we need to know this stuff. Nobody until the Anglican Church in 1930 accepted contraception. No Christian religion said it was morally acceptable till the Conference of Lambeth, Anglican Church. And that was the same year, 1930, that Costi Connubii, an encyclical written by Pius XI, came out stating that anything that frustrates a natural creative order is gravely immoral. Right. And the Church has constantly reiterated that since then. Yeah. Paul VI in Humana Vitae, John Paul II, and so forth and such. But these are disfigurements that have gone back even generations to get us to where we're at now. So, how do we refigure? How do we reorder this?
Right.
It has to be by going to the one who created it. It has to be, again, deep prayer. I say these 9 Supreme Court justices right now, folks out there listening and watching right now, do a 9-day novena for them, 1 day for each of them. Light votive candles after Mass for them. Pray an extra rosary for them. Fast 1 day a week for the justices. Let's pray that God's grace penetrates their hearts and that the decision that they render, that they bring, which is going to impact the world, considering this is America and it has just a big impact on the world. Pray that God's grace is realized in the depths of their hearts. But let's not take this lightly, as if we don't have the opportunity to really get into this, as you said, fight of our lives.
Right. And I love what the Pope says about the missionary purpose that the marriage has to show forth this beauty. And as Christians, that's what we need to be about, right? A Christian marriage family is so beautiful and compelling to people that see that. People want that in our, there's something in our natures that want faithful, committed love, that love children. And Christian families can have just a role in the front lines of the new evangelization, right. To live that vocation well and to witness to the world. That just speaks to people, even if they're not Christian, they can see the beauty of marriage and family. And there's something in us that wants that.
Yeah, we're ordered for that.
Right.
We're wired for that.
Right. So tonight we'll be speaking about Radiant Magazine with Rose Ray and Anna Liesemeyer. I think I mispronounced that before, but Anna Liesemeyer and Rose Ray tonight. And we're going to go out with a group that's visiting us here at the network, the Catholic Women Organization of Nigeria. They're from Dallas, Texas now. But they're going to sing a couple songs for us, and we'll come back with Radiant Awakening magazine. So don't go away. Back in a moment.
CWO. One voice. CWO. One voice. CWO. One voice. All to Jesus. True Mary. Mother Mary, Mother Milonia, we love you. 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 Oh, Mother, we love you. Oh, Mother, oh, we love you. Blessed Mother of Jesus, we love you. The seat of wisdom, we love you. Mother Mary, Mother Milonia, 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 we love you.
Welcome back. We hope you enjoyed that. We know we have a lot of viewers in Africa, so we hope they enjoyed a taste of Nigeria there and their singing. But tonight we have a great show. We have Radiant Awakening, a magazine, kind of a coffee table edition of the Radiant magazine. And we have Rose Ray and Anna Liesemeyer here to join us to talk about it. Now you were on 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah.
3 years ago, it's 2012.
Yeah.
And And at the time, you had a smaller magazine, Radiant. And roughly how many issues did you have of that?
We used to come out 4 times a year throughout the seasons of the year, and it was really fun, but we found out it would be a little more effective to make a thicker issue last a little bit longer. So this is an annual issue that'll last this through the spring and summer of 2015.
Can you walk us through it a little bit, just to maybe give people a taste of what it is?
So Anna and I began Radiant when, well, I started the magazine. I am the publisher and founder, so I come up with the topics, the content. We have some amazing writers from all over the U.S. and overseas. And then Anna is our fashionista. She picks out all the modest fashions that we show, and she's the designer. And then with this issue, we brought in another designer named Gemma, who also helped us with this. But the goal of Radiant is to cater to women, young women. So you talked about how important marriage is, and even before we get to that step, it's always been a calling on my heart to reach the women when they're making their life-changing decisions. You know, are they going to go to that college? Which high school are they going to choose? Are they going to go to that mission trip? You know, who they're going to date? Are they going to protect their hearts? And so we cater 14 to 30 around that. So that the high school to college to the early womanhood when you're, you know, starting to get married and newly have children. And so with Radiant, we aim to reach out to those women.
And what I noticed with this edition, you have some pretty meaty articles in it by Kristalina Everett and Jackie Francois had an article. What was like one of your favorite articles in this?
I tried when I was coming up with the topics, I tried to cater to all of the whole womanhood. So throughout the day, a woman, we go through a million emotions, right? You know, you're laughing and then you're crying and your husband's, what's going on with you? And then, you know, you want to be better, but then you want to also know that you're doing a good job at life. So throughout the issue, we have comical stories about being a youth minister, some funny tweets from a girl who's been a youth minister for 10 years. We've got recipes, we have stories on the saints, we have Anna's fashion section in here, so shows modest fashion. You talked about contraception, what a grave matter and discussion that is today, and we're not talking about it. Even the doctors are telling these 14, 13-year-old girls to take contraception to help their acne. What they're not realizing is the effects that it's affecting their body for so much of their life. So we have the lovely Lila Rose in here who's telling us all about what it's really doing to our body. It's time to talk the truth and tell these girls what's going on. So, and then Anna can tell us a little bit more about what she does with the fashion, because that's always a lot of fun.
I think Rose and I are both just really passionate about just true femininity in today's culture and the beauty of womanhood and all-encompassing womanhood, just every aspect of it. And I think when it's most threatened and when we get most confused are in those younger years when we're hearing so many different opinions and we're just navigating our way. And my hope was, along with Rose, is that from front to back, this would represent the real profound beauty of a woman. So when you're coming from an art and design perspective, how am I going to portray that through the images and the colors? And so I worked with our designer, and we really wanted it to speak so that when we saw, you know, when you look at this issue, you wanted to pick it up. And what is it about that natural beauty that's radiating off the cover? This photo was done by a friend of mine, Kat Harris Photography, and it just nailed it. It was, and so when you open it, you just are thrown right into these, this content that is encouraging you and really motivating you to not be afraid to rise to that level of true womanhood, that is very threatened and cheapened and a lot of times degraded, or, you know, a lot of those threats that we have to womanhood.
And evangelization has to speak to where women are at. I mean, young women are concerned, they have a drive or for beauty. You know, they want to be beautiful, and they have a natural interest in these things. And so that's good. It's in them. It's God-given, a gift to them to manifest the beauty of God in some way. So, right, as Catholics, we have to be there, right? Speak to that, cultivate, and maybe harness that for the good. And maybe that's a masculine way to look at it, but it's like
no, it's so true.
Well, and I'm not a connoisseur of women's fashions, clearly. For me, it would be, you know, black with a T-shirt. But what I can say is, after 25 years of marriage, is the appreciation that I have for my wife and what she is as a compliment to me in my life. Mm-hmm. And the beauty about her, inside and out, and the way she cares for that and presents that, impacts me on this planet more than anything else on a natural level. And the union of our marriage, the supernatural aspect of the sacrament of that, and the fact that her prayers for me are more powerful than anybody else's prayers, but also the tangible aspect of our marriage, the day-to-day, going through the motions, living side by side, waking up and going to sleep and washing dishes and changing diapers. Oh, I don't do that anymore. My youngest is 14. But the fact that you go through these things day to day, we are among this natural aspect of our life. And that's why I think this is so pertinent, because I know there are those out there, as we talked before the show, who feel that the holier you become, the more you move away from caring for even the expression, and you almost want to go into this kind of desert mode and strip yourself of any of the worldly aspects. And yet St. Francis de Sales says that a woman should, to paraphrase, make herself beautiful for her husband. Because there is something that God has given us in marriage to present ourselves wonderful to each other in all the aspects of what God made us to be. That's one of the reasons I like this, is because it does speak to, as you mentioned, the different articles you have there. And I just wanted to show this because I think this is just a beautiful image, if we can get this on here or not, of our Blessed Mother and the Memorare. You have incorporated cooking tips in here, you know, dietary aspects, you know, recipes, which I leave to my wife, fashion, and yet you bring the aspect of the Blessed Mother so clearly in here on the miraculous medal as well. Can you speak to why that was so important to bring that real balance of both aspects together here?
It was so on my heart because the reason this issue came about, so Anna and I published for 4 years, and then we took a 2-year break because it wasn't, I can't move unless God really called us to move forward, and I had a deployed husband, 3 small children, got to find that balance, and I really need to be with my children during that time. But we kept having orders. There was such a call for something like this that really brought the excitement of the faith back to the young women. And, you know, even before they get to that marriage, are they going to protect their hearts? Are they going to be, you know, practice chastity and modesty? And so we took a little break, but then I fully felt inspired by Our Lady to bring something back in a fuller, more deeper way where we could go more in depth with the articles and say, you know what, let's be a woman in all aspects and still bring the Catholic faith into every walk of our life. So I want to put a flower arrangement together and bring it to you to show you kindness and to make your day. But also you need to know the saints that are out there, like St. Gemma we have in there, that has changed so many lives in the depths of her faith, and call these girls by Anna's beautiful fashion, but say, you know, listen, you need to know what's going on with contraception, and, you know, kind of get them where they're at.
Just targeting the every level of womanhood, and that not being afraid, not watering things down. And truth is beautiful, and it's people are starving for truth. And when you can understand the meaning behind even the way we dress, like, you know, when I talk about fashion, I appreciate it. Why I've come to really appreciate it is because I know that even connecting what I wear with my inner dignity is going to positively impact everyone I encounter that day. And it motivates me to embrace that gift that God's given us to impact society. And that's a specific gift that God's given to women, and that we have to hold our standards very high, because we have that great calling to make an impact in whatever field, whether we're married, single, still figuring it out. And that's what's so cool about the contributors that Rose has been able to get for this issue, is that they're women who are fighting all over the world in different areas, and they're making such a powerful impact, and they're not giving in to relativism. They're saying, this is the truth, and this is what I'm fighting for, and I'm not afraid to talk about it. You know.
And I know whenever we talk about fashion, we always talk about modesty. I know it's a challenge for young women today. There's so much pressure to be immodest, to objectify themselves, to attract attention. What do you all what do y'all say about that, about how to dress modestly? That's a minefield.
Yeah, I think it's like the word modest itself is like you automatically have this vision of like, you know, you're wearing a paper sack. But really, modesty is kind of a lost art form and a virtue that's being, you know, pushed to the wayside. Because if you turn on television, it's a very tough battle you're going to fight, because there is nothing offered to show you how to dress in an attractive way. Because, like, you know, we were talking about there's two extremes. It's like, you know, there's some women who have completely let go and don't even care about what they wear, and then there's, you know, the opposite end of wanting to reveal too much. And I think modesty should really be a reflection of, I know my worth, I know my self-worth, I know I am valued and esteemed by who God and by my Creator, and that God created me for something great. And I'm going to dress like I am a temple of the Holy Spirit. And it can, and when you have that in mind, there's really, I mean, you can still get creative. Like, I'm always like working with my wardrobe and coming up with ways to dress that fits my style and my personality, but it's still going ultimately to reflect, you know, my inner beliefs.
Right.
And I think people would value it more if it was connected in that way. But I think no one's really addressing it in that way. It's looked down upon if you say the word modesty with no definition. It just doesn't, you're ultra conservative, or you must be one of those. You know,
we're trying to bring the fun back.
Yeah,
and that's why, and Anna has so many different styles to show how you can still be feminine if you're wearing a long skirt, if you're wearing capris, a blazer with fun jewelry. So we're just trying to give the girls some options.
Yeah, and I'm the same way with my fashion. I have different color camo, okay? And depending on the time of day, the season, you know, it may be the dark gray camo, it may be the desert camo, I'm serious. But you bring up the point of modesty, and the 9th commandment of the Catechism states that modesty protects the intimate center of the person. And I liked what you said a little bit ago, that what you wear, united with your dignity, is the impact that you make to the world. And there's something about appreciating the intimate center, and we don't even talk that way anymore, that we have an intimate center. But the church teaches we have an intimate center that we need to protect and guard. And not just with fashion, conversation, emotions, feelings, entertainment, associations, and such. And I love the way you brought that up earlier when you said that, you know, what I wear combined with the dignity that I know of myself expresses something to the world. So then do you think that a lot of young ladies, men too, but women especially when it comes to this issue, just don't know their inner dignity? They don't know that worth.
Absolutely. They're waiting to find their worth from their friends, from their parents. They're waiting for their dad or their mom or a boyfriend, and it's getting lost, where we want them to find it in their Creator and then show that to the world through their dress and actions.
Well, we got to take a short break. We'll be back in just a moment with Rose and Anna, so don't go away. Back in a moment. Welcome back. One of the things I like about the fact that you all are doing this is that you're married, you have kids. Rose, you have 4 kids. Anna, you have 3 with 1 on the way.
Yes.
The due date is
August 3rd. So
August 3rd.
A couple months.
And you originally started the magazine. You had to take a break for the kids and family, right? Real busy.
Right.
And talk about how you were inspired to come up with this version.
God's timing is so funny. It's never ours, is it? So I wanted to keep continuing after we published for 4 years, but again, the door was kind of shut. I just needed to focus. I didn't have the extra time to continue Radiant. And but I just kept getting orders, and I kept saying, Lord, I mean, there's a need for this. Why don't you want me to keep doing this? But it wasn't time yet. And then literally 2 months ago, after a 2-year break, I was woken up in the middle of the night with my whole being saying Radiant Awakening. and I knew it was inspired by Our Lady. Anna and I have both done the consecration to Mary, and it's true. I mean, it's completely changed my life, and I know that she was calling me to do that. And the theme of the issue is the awakening, because it's now. The time is now, and we highlight in the issue all these young women, not later on in life. It's right now. We have an 18-year-old girl who is fighting for life, and she was led the march, Julia Johnson, the March for Life in DC, as far as one of their group led, Fargo Shanley High School led the march, and she spoke up with all of the leaders and the bigwigs and senator and whoever started the speaking, talking about her fight just at her age, at 18. And so when I was inspired by Mary with the awakening, it was, you know, what can we do now? How can we play our role in Christ's body? Because I think when you're 15, 16, 17, figuring out your life or making small decisions, we think they're not going to affect other people. But they do. They affect everyone around us, and building up Christ's body or taking it down. So Mary just really called me to do this now, which the timing was horrible, but we made it work, and now I have this beautiful issue that a lot of people have enjoyed.
Well, tell us about how, maybe more about the hiatus too. Why did you have to stop? And I think that kind of makes the birth of it more miraculous too. And
that's true. I'm married to a military man who was on his 4th deployment. So in 3 kids under 4, there was just not enough time in the day to pull this off. And Anna was experiencing the same thing. She had 3 children. And we can only do what God has called us to do with the gifts that we have. And time was not what we had at that moment. So, but just wanting to do something, and I encourage everyone else, when they're wondering what God's will is for their life, you really have to just pray about it and hope that God will be clear in telling you. And it's always a hushed, quiet voice, I feel like. I don't know how it's been for you guys, but all the loud noise is not usually the right answer. It's in the stillness of your heart when you really know. And so after and I was so sad because I wanted to keep going, but that's why it was so fun for me to be awakened in the middle of the night with radiant awakening, saying that this is the time, like the Holy Spirit needs to move now in these girls' hearts. If they're on the fence about something, you know, take that leap and go for it.
And I was thinking we were done like for a while, and she called me up and with this, you know, I have this really strong feeling of the Holy Spirit that I need to do this. And I heard, and in her voice, I just knew. I was like, and in my head, I'm like, this is horrible timing. But there's something.
Mary didn't awaken me, right?
Right. But I could tell, like, I am not one to doubt that, like, God could do great things through just that conviction. And it was, with what little we had to offer,
Right.
I feel like it was just a clear conviction that God can bless the little we have to give. And that can apply to any point of your life, that when you feel like you have nothing to give, even the little that you have. Right. Yeah, you offered, here, okay, this is all I have to give, Lord. And He blesses it 10 times fold. So.
And you stepped out on a limb financially too. I mean, it got pretty real, didn't it?
Absolutely. I mean, I said, okay, Mary, I'll do this for you, but how? How am I supposed to do this? I have, you know, we don't have finances. I'm moving across the country in I think it was a week or 2, you know, and all of these factors, I didn't have anything. I think that's the beauty of God, where it really shows that we are nothing. He is everything. The air we breathe, the water we drink, we're nothing. And so for Him to call me and step out on a limb and just trust Him was so hard, because it's easy to want to control everything and plan those things. So for me to just take this leap of faith and say, okay, Lord, I'll do this for you, but show me the way. And Satan was there every step of the way to try to do the roadblock, and we were given just enough finances, and then they were taken away. It was a house offer, and then it fell apart the second we moved forward. So it was scary all along the way, but luckily, you know, in my heart, Christ was telling me, inspired by Mary, that we had to do this. And
I think it's a testament to your husband too, to support you and stepping out. I mean, that's
a huge leap of faith.
Quite a guy right there.
So.
And what I like about your story too is that you're writing from a perspective of, you're very much in reality. You know what it is to be a mother, to raise children, and those stresses, and yet you're still talking about these issues that are important to young women. I think from the perspective of a mother now, describe that. How has the motherhood aspect influenced the content?
That's a great question, because Anna we were talking earlier, and she said it so clearly that some people think that maybe you could be imprisoned or your life ends, and I can't ever do what I'm called to do or what I want to do when I give up my life for my children. But at the same time, you can continue to give, and it's even more beautiful how the children can enhance what our role is to give what Christ calls us to give, but with our children. Right? Do you agree?
Oh yeah, definitely. I think like I'm such a creative person that was just, I have to like live and breathe creativity. That's just part of my job. It's part of, you know, been part of me for so long. And I feel like after my children awakened a part of me that, you know, obviously God created there for motherhood. And when I became a mother, it was awakened in me and some of the best experiences of my life and the most challenging. And it allows you to see the world with a new perspective. And I did go through, you know, high school and college, fighting these real battles and trying to figure out my way, and then to come out on the other end where we are living our vocation, but it doesn't end. We are called to awaken our souls every year. We can never be sleeping Christians, and I think my children and just with motherhood, it doesn't stop. You know, your mission as a Christian just doesn't ever end.
And the gravity that we're understanding now as mothers, because here we are meeting college kids, oh, we want to inspire women and live our lives well, and that's great, but we had no idea the impact, because we were very blessed to have amazing mothers as examples to lead Christian lives. And now that we look at our own little children, our own little daughters, these are our souls that we're in charge of to get to heaven. And every action of ours matters. And so these girls reading Radiant, they're someone's daughters, you know, and their decisions can affect the rest of their life.
And it makes you invested in the culture, because you're like, I want my kids to grow up in a good culture, you know?
Right. So you're fighting for them, and you're also showing them what it is to be a fighter.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah, I love that.
Yes.
Your husbands obviously play a role in some way.
Absolutely.
We men do, of course.
Poor husbands sometimes.
No question about that. Make that clear. But in what ways? You bounce ideas off of
Throw
them?
Doug a bone here. Come on.
Well, she's the hero because she's done half of this while her husband was deployed or, you know, working or training. And, you know, I'm lucky because my husband and I have a very, like, you know, we go at everything together. It's a team. So, you know, he works all day and then comes home, and I have to go to work. I do a lot of work after my kids go to bed, and in the weekends he'll take them so that I have to, you know, pound out a deadline. It's a teamwork effort. So they're the behind the scenes heroes in a way.
Supporters.
What would they say? I'm sorry, ladies, but I just can't sit here and accept that they support us in this mission. No, not good enough. Because my wife doesn't support me in my work. My wife is my sounding board. My wife is my creator of my talks and presentations, and she listens to everything, knows me better than anybody, and so, you know, she is up there speaking with me when I'm giving a talk publicly somewhere. So if the husbands were sitting right here and I would ask them the question, how do you contribute to this magazine? What would they say?
Well, it's so funny because I'll put the right back at you, what would you say? This is how wonderful my husband is to this craziness. So he's leaving for a 2-month training course, okay? So I'm gonna have the 4 kids by myself. I'm not having slept in probably 4 years up with my baby. We have no money to do this at this point. We're moving across the country, and I get woken up in the middle of the night with an inspiration. I'm like, by the way, we need all this money to invest out of our own money, and you have to support me on this, and I'm gonna do this while you're gone. You know, what would you say? I mean, he should have told me I was nuts, but he prayed about it, and he's like, okay, I think you're a little crazy, but I feel that if God is calling you to do this, I will support you. And I mean, if without his support, we wouldn't be here today. We wouldn't be having the emails from the girls that say, you know, oh my gosh, you know, I'm fighting over my mom with this over my mom, or my mom's stealing it from me, or we need 50 more copies. The church took all the issues. Or a dad who said, you know what, my daughter's into things that I'm not really happy with right now. I'm going to give her Radiant. It's such a great tool to say, you know, it may not sit down and have a 2-hour conversation with someone, but if I can give them the issue and hope that they'll read the contraceptive article, or, you know, the girl who wrote love letters to her husband and saved herself for him. I mean, that is life-changing.
Yeah. What I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, my husband was the one who gave me the pep talk to come onto the show, because I was literally doubting myself and like, what do I have to, you know, offer this this world? It's very easy for us women to be hard on ourselves. And I was like, I just don't feel like right now. I'm like, you know, so pregnant, so tired. And he's like, you know, but what is it? He quoted some great saying of, you know, when you are your least, God is his best. And when you are humble, God can really speak through you. And so he's the one who's like got me like jazzed up for the show. And I really think that true unconditional love does affect all your whole life. And so with Rose and I have been blessed to experience through marriage, has given us such a passion to share that with these women that, you know, fight for true and unconditional and Christ-centered love,
for
because
virtue.
it's
I mean,
life-changing.
you can see the importance of chastity now that you're married before being married.
Oh
and
my
the
gosh.
importance of
yes,
it. So,
more so.
And if they only knew, you know, I mean, with the marriage with my husband, he led a very worldly, you know, normal life. And I you know, led a maybe unnormal life in the sense of I was very protected. My mom kept us a very, you know, religious upbringing. And he kept, in our marriage,
he was buried in the fields
I was buried in the fields of North Dakota. There's not a lot that goes on there. And
20 miles from the Canadian border. We looked it up on the map.
And you said it perfectly, Father, because my husband kept telling me, if I only knew, like if I only knew what was coming. And that's the point of Radiant. We're telling them right now, if they only knew, well, now you know. We're telling you right now, this is here and this is available. And this is what God has planned for you.
And there's so much hope.
And there's so much excitement.
Right.
Have you all gotten feedback? Any memorable stories or people?
A dear friend of ours just told us, and she was a contributor, and she said how the Pope, the quotes, we have a few quotes from the popes about womanhood and beauty, and they're really striking. And she just said how much they resonated with her and almost brought tears to her eyes and really affected her. And she's sharing them with her students, and she just can't wait to keep passing on the issue.
Well, we're going to take a short break. We'll be back in just a moment. I was talking about Radiant Awakening. So don't go away. Back in a minute. Well, welcome back. And Doug, you got a question.
I did. Deep one, long question. It's going to take a while to answer, probably. We talked earlier before the show, and we a little bit about what Archbishop Fulton Sheen said, Venerable Archbishop Fulton Sheen, that the nobler a woman is, the nobler a man will be. Men are designed and wired by God to pursue the heart of a woman. I pursued the heart of my wife. I continue to pursue and win her heart. I try to every day in some way, shape, or form. Maybe the way I style my hair, or some other way that might be more effective. But the point is, there is something about the impact that a woman has on a man, on all of society. As it, you know, when God said that it wasn't enough for Adam to be alone, I'll create for him Eve. And then, of course, Adam says the most romantic words ever, I think, on the face of the planet. Finally, this one is bone of my bone and flesh of my flesh. There's something about the woman, something about even what we see in Fulton Sheen saying that all civilizations could be written about the level of the womanhood. There's something so powerful. Saint John Paul II writes about the feminine genius. There's something about that. Cardinal Menzenti says that a woman co-creates with God, life in her womb, the image and likeness of God in the womb of a woman. Angels can't even do this. There's something about that. Why, ladies, could you speak to why so incredibly important that this magazine is taken more seriously than just a nice fashion magazine with a couple spiritual thoughts in there? You're really trying to help elevate this very fact that the gift of a woman to the world has tremendous, tremendous power and impact for generations, for all of civilization.
And that's the big thing, is generations. We are the next generation of women, of mothers, of wives, of sisters. And if we don't say yes to Christ, to carry, you know, his legacy on it and to live his life every day, then we will not be doing his will, and society can't continue to spread his word in that way.
Yeah, I think that there's so many different different calls in womanhood itself. I have a friend who works in the ER trauma room. I have one who's a physical therapist. I have someone fighting, for these pro-life battles, and there's so many different avenues to offer our talents. But how, when you actually really understand that you can recognize it. Beauty is tangible. It is a very, you can almost name it if someone, the difference when a woman recognizes who she is in the eyes of her creator, when she walks in a room, it's the presence is very tangible. It's something about that. What is that about her? I want to know her. And I think that's a lot of times, what originally attracts a man to the woman. And I look at all these women fighting their different battles in their different fields, and how impactful it is when they understand, when they're aware of that gift, versus when they're not. Because we've both met maybe women who are really suffering and they can't even look you in the eye, and then the woman who wants to really get to know who you are and is present with you, and how impactful that is in your life. And I remember just the people in the delivery room with me and who was invested in me in that moment versus the ones who were distracted, And the woman just has this ability to really pass that on to a man of, there's something about this woman that makes me want to be better by just being around her. That's what my husband told me was one of the things that that drew him to me, was that he just wanted to be around me and wanted to be better just by knowing me. And for me, that immediately was like, wow, I have that challenge to want to continue to be that for him.
Right.
And I think it's what Doug's talking about too, how the woman will inspire the man in his strength, what to do with his strength and his energies and talents. And that first song in Genesis, his heart is moved by that. And it's interesting in the culture, for the past, it seemed like 150 years, we've just been struggling with this vocation of women. Very much in the news today, there's all this talk about role of women, and, presidential candidates are having to address things and speak to this issue. It's a big question, but what do you think the Catholic vision and that you all bring to this debate or this wrestling we have in modernity that you're trying to bring through your magazine?
Well, it's cool too, because in one of the articles it's called "Lost in Your Embrace." Can you guys see that? There you go. One of the editors of Life Teen International talks about how she was praying about the wedding feast at Cana, that story, and how Jesus says it's not his time to serve yet. Or show his public ministry. And what happens? Mary says, do whatever he tells you. She tells him to change the water into wine, and he listens to her, and he goes forward from that, and goes, and with such confidence she knows to call him to do that, to do more. And I think that as a Catholic, Mary needs to be such a good example for us to trust in Jesus, to take that next step and go from there.
There's a lot of confusion. I'm sorry, Father, go ahead.
Yeah, I think women, I know the popes have been saying that women have a sensitivity to life, to the human person, that dignity, and to champion and nurture life in its most fragile aspects. Right. And it seems like today, modern women, as they take more of a role in society, they are pointing that out, hopefully in a good way. To call men and all of culture to rise up to defend life.
I think one of the things that I find, we see in our society is that the confusion about women's role and such is that there's a misunderstanding of really the impact that a woman can have in what her nature is, a certain strength in her nature. The men that I talk to around the country will say that one of the things that closes them off quickest is when the woman, the wife, mother, gets too aggressive, even in matters of faith, and too intense, too fast, and gets too sharp, I should say, to use the word, like sandpaper. You know, you ladies are like sandpaper. You can be that real fine 220 grit that just takes off the edge lightly, or you can be 60 grit, which really is painful. Okay, but the guys will close up at the 60 grit, the painful, right? And it becomes abrasive. It becomes abrasive at times, you know, and painful. But I think that there's a misunderstanding of the strength of a woman. There's a very strong nature in a woman, and I think it's a more powerful aspect of a woman when she uses that gentle tone, strong, courageous, confident. My wife inspires me more when she gently and with a strength encourages me than if she, you know, gets right up there and says, you're going to do this because I'm telling you. And that's what a lot of women are trained today to do, to have that kind of, don't you dare, because I will let you know that I am woman, hear me roar, as the song says.
Yeah, there's a lot of like... and
that's a misunderstanding of what her nature really is, like the gentleness of the Blessed Mother.
Absolutely.
Yes, yes. I think there's like a lot of that being thrown at us of, you know, true feminism is that, you know, we can do what a man does, and we can be as great, and we are equal. And yes, we are equal. But God created us very differently, and that He gave the man incredible gifts, and He gave the woman incredible gifts, but they're very different. And he you know, He created the man with this passion to lead and to you know, all these different aspects that make him a man is brought out when a woman's gifts a lot of time can complement that so beautifully. Of we are so good at supporting and listening, or we have that that heart that, you know, bleeds wide open for the people she loves. And God created our hearts very differently, and when we can understand them, and yes, they are equal, but they have different strengths. That's what I think there's confusion. So there's that whole...
I think there's a confusion too on that. Sometimes there's this impression given that Christianity, you know, subjugates women or weakens them.
Right.
But you all, in the magazine, you have a virtue quiz. That's right, this testing women, say, hey, what virtue? Virtue means strength, and women are called to have virtue. Certainly the faith strengthens a person, a woman or a man who has faith. We see Mary standing at the foot of the cross in strength. It's an image of strength. Tell us about that virtue quiz a little bit and the faith that you
It's
question.
a lot of fun. Sarah Swafford, who speaks a lot on emotional virtue, has this beautiful list that's called the Simply Irresistible Virtuous Woman. So she puts all the traits on here of and virtues. And so I thought, you know, how can I tell these girls how great these virtues are, but make it fun for them? Because, again, no one's just going to sit here and read, oh, cool, I should do this. So us ladies love to take quizzes and learn more about ourselves. So we made up a virtue quiz that said there is beauty in virtue, and we put their virtue to the test. So we have 8 questions on here just talking about...
How about
like
one of the questions?
You want well, I'll give you guys a social media question. You check your social media how many times a day? One's like 3 to 5, 5 to 10, and respond to, you know, some posts, or way too many to count. There's just too much to keep up on. And then when you would go to the next page, you learn, you know, prudence and, you know, how we can balance that.
Hold on a second. You were saying something. I was
Fail.
I was checking my phone here for just a second.
Failed prudence.
But,
Do you all address maybe some of the wounds women would have from this culture? I mean, obviously it can be so damaging. There's so many things out there. Is
Absolutely.
that addressed?
We have an article in here by, Kristalina Everett, the international chastity speaker, has some do's and don'ts for dating, which are a lot of fun. And then she has a beautiful letter to women, and it's just about women made new. She has this great website out there if no one has seen it yet. And in there she just talks about how we're made new through Christ, as we know, through confession and all these wonderful things, through our prayers. And it's just a very beautiful letter of healing. Right. Or another quick one is a beautiful friend of ours who had 3 healthy children, then 7 miscarriages, and just the pain and the healing that she had to go through. And the title is, what's the title again?
Out of ashes, beauty will rise.
Yes.
And it's a very powerful,
and she adopts.
story.
She adopts.
And she talks about how the adoption ended up being healing for her. And it's, you know, it was about God's timing, was not hers, but.
So we can order, well, all the new issues are available now. So they can go to our website, be-radiant.com, to get them if they want. So it's a spring-summer issue, and they're $10 a copy. So we hope a lot of churches, and we do group rates. to group discounts for anyone who wants to order a big group for their church. But check out our website.
The website is
be-radiant.com. We want the ladies to live it out, so that's why our website is what it is.
be-radiant.com.
Yep.
And what is your hope for the direction in the future for Radiant?
It's a funny question. Since the theme is God's will for now, we are taking it one day at a time. We're going to let this baby come. We're going to live with our 4 children. And I would love to keep making this. So we hope that we'll get to make one every year. But we'll just see, you know, what the call is for our lives and go from there.
And how has it blessed you? I mean, to be part of the new evangelization, to be out there using your gifts, how has that blessed you personally?
What do you think, Anna?
Oh gosh, I think whenever you get to use a gift in a small way that God's given you, it's life-giving. It makes you get a taste of how great it is to be in the walk of Christ, to how generous He is with His love and His
He writes a
direction.
better story than we can come up with.
Exactly.
Ever. And I really think
we look at each other and we're like, what?
It's intoxicating. I think that's a perfect word. You think, you know, our Catholicism has all these rules to chain you down, and it's absolutely intoxicating to be doing His will and to know I'm doing it and to see what He worked through me. I was telling you, Father, I just feel so blessed to be this vessel.
Well, thanks so much for coming and sharing the magazine, and we hope everybody can get a copy of that. And but thank you for sharing your faith and what God's doing in your life. It's a beautiful story. May our Heavenly Father shine His face upon you. May He give you His peace. And may Almighty God bless you, the Father and the Son and the Holy Spirit. We'll see you next week.